Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Addiction Solutions with Roselle. So glad that you could join me today for this show. I would like for you to tell your family and friends about the show. Ask them to go to YouTube and type in rather, Addiction Solutions with Roselle, and then they can subscribe to the channel. Remember, it's free. It doesn't cost anything, and you'll get a chance to hear some of the information that someone might need. So far in the shows, we've covered experimentation with various addictions. We've also covered legal issues, and we've covered employment problems. Today, we're going to get into one of my favorites. That's the family. Now, with the family, you have to remember we have something that is called codependence and enablers. Now, a codependent is an individual that relies emotionally and psychologically on an individual who's ill or who's addicted. An enabler is someone that helps an individual continue their addiction to whatever it is because they look the other way, they give them money, they give them support, anything they can. And so, Roselle, speaking for self, I had many enablers. My number one was my grandmother and her sister. They were widows living alone. And how this started, because I'm in family and we're in addiction. So how this started is I used to take my grandma and auntie to a place in Detroit called the Eastern Market. And I take them shopping, and I go to the bank for them. I pay their bills. I take them shopping. I take them to the beauty shop. I did anything I could. I cut the grass. I paint, whatever. Never asked for a dime. This particular day, we got back from the Eastern Market, and I just said, "Aunt Alberta, can you loan me $50?" She said, "Sure, honey," and that was it. The door was open. So she said, "Here's the 50." And so I paid them back. And so that's how the enabling started. Once you pay an individual back, they trust you. And so, this kept me out of the penitentiary. I'm serious. I had a serious drug habit. I was snorting dope at an alarming rate, heroin. And so most times individuals have to support that habit by stealing, sticking up, breaking in houses, whatever. I was fortunate enough to be able to get an income. So all I had to do was let my grandma and my auntie know that I had money coming, and bingo, I could borrow what I wanted as long as I paid it back. And so along the way, my uncle, their brother, got involved. So I was hitting him up too. But the sad thing about it is when you get your money or your paycheck, you have to pay it back. So say, for instance, you borrow $1,000. And so you get your money, just say you get $1,060. That means after you pay everybody back, you've got $60. Now, my dope man was an enabler, or dope woman, because I had both. And what I mean by them being enablers is I could get credit. Okay, so now I've gave you a background on enabling with the family. And the dope man was my family because I needed him in order to keep going. Now, my family, wife and kids, I don't know if they were enablers, because my first wife, we separated so much until, wow, it was hard to say, but, she knew what was going on. And from time to time, she'd give me money. My kids, they were really too young to know, that they were enabling me, So as we move along with the addict that may be in your family, these are some signs. I went in treatment, I'd say 17 times. That's a rough estimate. All of these times I told my family this was it, I'm not going to do it anymore, blah, 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 blah. And so they believed me. So when it got down to, say, maybe the 8th or 9th, they didn't even come to see me no more. I mean, it just was a waste of time. So I don't know if you're there with your family member or the family member that's the addict. I don't know if you've tried this with your family, but nevertheless, the family has to look out for what I said, the codependent and the enabler. Because if you're the codependent, you're relying on this individual. You know their moods, you know how they're going to react. And so you go along with them. You go along to get along. Now, the enabler is if you're giving them money, if you're like, substituting things that they should be doing, you're covering. I had addicts when I was a therapist. They told me things I never heard of before. Like, how do you get, evicted from your home? How do you get eviction notice when you're watching the individual fill out the money order going to the mortgage company? Nevertheless, the money order was going to the individual. So they fill it out like and they looking all happy thinking that the house note is being paid, when really the individual, the addict, is waiting for that letter to come back so they can take it to the bank and cash it and continue to get high. And so these things come out after a while. But the reason I'm doing addiction solutions with Roselle is to educate family and the addict. Hey, maybe your family hasn't had enough. I mean, my family went along with me for a long time. I mean, when it got down to the end, when my mom died in March of 1990, my family told me don't come within 10 blocks of their houses because they was tired of me. They were sick and tired of hearing me saying I was going to get clean. So now the family episode in the phase chart, these are one of the stop signs that the addict, because he can get that, information from the family. They can do all types of, what we call it, interventions. They can do all types of interventions. Nevertheless, until the addict is ready to stop using, they're not going to stop using. So, but do your intervention. I'm not saying that it's not good to do it, but do your intervention because it might help, because it goes back to the experimentation. Maybe this is what the addict needed. Maybe they needed this intervention. So we're going to stop right here on the family. Next week, we're going to get back deeper a little bit into the family. Roselle's going to tell you a little more about him. Any comments or concerns or critiques you have, go to my Facebook page and type it in, and I'll be glad to get back to you. Don't forget about the books, 366 days, 365 days. You can go on my Facebook page, type in, say, Roselle, I'd like to get the books. I'll get them to you autographed. Thanks for joining me today, and I hope that you have a great day.